How's it going, YouTube, and welcome back to another Rogue run. In this episode, we're going to be continuing the run that we had in the last few videos, and one thing I will preface prior to the rest of this video going on is you can probably tell that the audio that you're listening to is not matched up to my webcam. The main reason behind this is, unfortunately, when I recorded this video, I forgot that I had changed my audio settings to record with my good friend Ricky for Card Breaking Gamers. There's also going to be no audio in terms of the gameplay either, and again, for that I do apologise as well. The reason behind that is I was on Master Duel, swapped the game audio to Master Duel and just forgot to transfer it back over to Rogue. However, in this video, as I said, we are continuing on our journey that we were on in the previous few videos. Now, obviously, I already know the outcome of this particular run, but I'm not going to spoil anything just yet. But right here, I was thinking, you know what? We haven't got a Persian from this particular region, so we are going to go ahead and catch it. The IVs weren't amazing, so obviously we didn't add it to the party at the time, but the IVs were still pretty good in general, so I thought, you know what, we'll go ahead and we'll catch it anyway, and we'll just add it to the collection for starters moving forward. Can't remember what I take here. Okay, yeah, I take the big nugget, so just to get a little bit more money in. But being on the island, we are coming up against quite a few different Pokemon, I guess you could say. We're not coming up against like the same type over and over and over again. But right now, all I'm thinking of doing is just trying to get through the floor, or at least a biome, and trying to progress through our journey as we have been in the previous videos. So Zapdos obviously is our main carry, but we do also have Gyarados here as well, which is one of my favourite Pokemon basically of all time, especially in Gen 1. A lot of my Pokemon, as you may or may not have noticed, or at least my favourite Pokemon, have been coming from Gen 1. I think I remember playing Pokemon up until around about like Gen 4, I think it was, Gen 4, maybe even Gen 5, before I didn't really have a console to go ahead and play Pokemon on. But with regards to that Ninetales, I was contemplating catching it. I was trying to think of the move that might do the least amount of damage on our Zapdos, but in hindsight I probably should have swapped into something that wasn't going to do too much damage to the Ninetales there. Something along the lines of like our Among Us, even though it is probably the best Pokemon in terms of typing. Although saying that, it was a Ice Fairy type Ninetales. I should have swapped into something else just to allow myself a bit more of a idea, I guess you could say, of being able to go ahead and capture that Pokemon. But when we one hit KO it, I was like, okay, we'll have hopefully some luck come our way, and we'll be able to go ahead and pick up the Ninetales a little bit further on in the run. But regardless, we are once again up against our rival Ivy here, and if I remember correctly, this battle was very intense, and we did lose a few Pokemon along the way. But Blaziken comes out, which is Terra Fire, which is obviously terrored into its own typing. But Ivy does swap out into the Florges here, so we do manage to take this down fairly easily after Zapdos goes down, unfortunately. Zapdos going down there wasn't the ideal situation. Again, in hindsight, it probably would have been better for us to go ahead and swap into something different. But I go into Among Us here because I'm like, okay, Among Us is probably our best typing up against the Florges, but Ivy also swaps out her Pokemon into Corviknight. So right here, I'm trying to think what our best option is in terms of swapping the Among Us out and putting something else in. So we do go for Colossal, which does tank the first move from Corviknight, which is quite nice to see. And then I'm like, okay, what do I want to go ahead and use here to try and get through Corviknight? But again, much like the previous Pokemon in the Florges, Ivy does go ahead and swap into Stunfisk, which I think ends up, one-shotting our Colossal, which isn't what I was hoping to happen. I was kind of hoping our Colossal was going to be able to one-shot the Stunfisk, but we go into Gyarados here again for typing purposes, and Ivy goes into her Baxcalibur. So I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to keep Gyarados in here, but I do have a quick check on my Pokemon, and I'm like, okay, Gyarados, we'll see what you can do against this Baxcalibur. We go ahead and use Hyper Beam, which does take a lot of health off of the Pokemon that Ivy had out, but she again swaps into her Corviknight, which doesn't do too much damage to our Gyarados. So I'm like, you know what, we'll keep Gyarados in. We should be able to get rid of this Corviknight in the next couple of turns. Unfortunately for me, Corviknight does stay in a little bit longer than I wanted it to, meaning it gets our Gyarados down to 50 HP. Obviously, Gyarados then gains a level or two, meaning the HP does go up a little bit for us. But Baxcalibur comes out once again, and right here I'm thinking, you know what, Gyarados is so low anyway, we may as well leave it out there and see if we can just knock out this Baxcalibur by being quicker. Unfortunately, we are not quicker than Baxcalibur, so our Gyarados goes down, and we are all of a sudden down to 3 Pokemon. So Kadabra comes out, and I'm like, you know what, we'll see if Kadabra can do some work against the rest of Ivy's team. I almost click Ice Punch there, and then I quickly realise that that's not going to do anywhere near as much damage as we want it to, but we do get through the Blaziken fairly easily with Kadabra in the end, knocking out the Baxcalibur as well. So Kadabra is basically doing a lot of the heavy lifting towards the latter end of our fight with Ivy. Thankfully, a lot of her Pokemon are already very weak for Kadabra, meaning it is a lot easier for Kadabra to get through a lot of Ivy's Pokemon, and we do end up seeing the Florges as the final Pokemon to get through Ivy on floor 95. And right here I'm thinking, okay, we've managed to get through Ivy, but we have taken a lot of damage from Ivy's Pokemon. We have a lot of our Pokemon fainted, so we're going to have to figure out what we want to revive, if anything, just so we have a few more options of Pokemon to go into. Pretty sure here I go ahead and I max revive our Zapdos, and I'm contemplating max reviving something else there, but I don't end up doing so. Next Pokemon we run into is a Sandslash, which is obviously steel and ice for this particular region. And right here again, I'm trying to figure out what our best option is to try and get through this Sandslash, / be able to try and capture it, because this typing would be quite nice to have in our collection. So do throw an Ultra Ball after getting it low. Do end up catching it. The speed is very nice on this Sandslash, but I believe I don't add it to our party. I just add it to our starters, because a lot of the other IVs are fairly low in terms of everything outside of speed. I may end up taking it over something. I can't actually remember fully. So we don't. I don't think we ended up adding it there. I think we ended up just releasing it and having it in our starting collection. Obviously, all of our other Pokemon here are gaining some levels, which is nice to see. And we do have another big nugget here, so I go ahead and click Hyper Potion on Kadabra just to heal it up a little bit and then get some money back with the big nugget. And once again, we run into another Sandslash here, so I go ahead and hit Psychic on Kadabra, and right here I'm like, okay, we'll see what the IVs are saying on this Sandslash, and unfortunately they are not much better than the one that we previously caught, but it does add some IVs to a starting Sandshrew for us, so we go ahead and just add that to the collection to buff the IVs of the Sandslash we already caught. So right here we're gaining a lot of levels off of the XP. We have a look at Thunderbolt, and the only actual Pokemon, you can't obviously see it with my webcam, but the only Pokemon we can give that to is Gyarados. So I'm like, do I take this on Gyarados? Do I not take this on Gyarados? But I feel that we have reasonable moves on our Gyarados already. So we click a Super Potion on Kadabra, and we take, I can't remember what that was, it might have been an X attack. Marowak is the next Pokemon that comes up, and if I remember correctly, I do end up catching this Pokemon. Because of the Fire Ghost typing, I feel it's going to be quite a nice Pokemon to have in terms of a starter. And unfortunately, Kadabra does go down to Marowak, so we come into a Zapdos going with a aerial ace because we don't really want to be knocking out this particular Marowak. Throw a Great Ball and we instantly catch it. And to be fair, the IVs on this Marowak are pretty nice in terms of special defense, speed and defense. Also adds attack and special attack to the IVs for the Cubone starter. And right here, I'm trying to figure out if I want to add it to my party. I'm pretty sure I do, and I'm almost certain I take it over the Among Us here. In hindsight, it might have been better to keep the Among Us, but we do get rid of it to add in the Marowak. Obviously, the Marowak is very, very low on HP right now, considering that we got it quite low to be able to catch it. But right here, we do have a revive in our rewards, and I believe I'm sat there thinking, you know what, this revive could be quite nice to take. I just checking the other items and what they did, but we do go ahead and take the revive on the Gyarados, meaning that we have another Pokemon available to us in future battles, and we just get through this Bruxish even fairly easily with Zapdos, so we can't complain there. And all of the Pokemon once again are gaining a fair few levels through XP. We do see a max revive here, which again I think I end up taking on Kadabra, maybe Colossal. Can't actually remember if we end up taking it, but we are hyper potioning all of the Pokemon that we can, just to try and make sure we have everything to full health ready for the next biome that we go to. But Persian is our boss here, and I keep in the Zapdos because I'm thinking Zapdos is or has been our main Pokemon for the majority of this run. So we will keep in the Zapdos to try and get through this Persian, get it down to half health, and it goes for Assurance. We click, obviously, Ancient Power. Play Rough comes out, meaning Zapdos is very low. But we do hopefully get through this. Yeah, we do get through this with Zapdos, meaning we do get through floor 100 once again, and everything does gain its HP back, which is always nice to see. It means that we have Pokemon ready to rock and roll. We have some eggs here, so first and foremost, we do have a Squawkabilly. Not the greatest IVs, unfortunately, but Flare Blitz as a move isn't too bad. Next up, we end up getting a Bellsprout, which adds some IVs to the Bellsprout we've already got in our collection, so that is always lovely to see. And we gain the XP Charm and Golden Pokeball as our floor rewards for 100. So next up, we have a double encounter with Gyarados and Tentacruel. Now, in this situation, I really wanted to catch this Tentacruel. I felt like it would be a very nice Pokemon to have in the collection, maybe even for the rest of this particular run. So we do go ahead and think about swapping out one of our Pokemon. I can't remember which Pokemon this is. It might be the Gyarados. It is. So we go into the Carbink, which in hindsight probably wasn't the greatest idea because it is a rock type, meaning it is going to take quite a lot of damage from the two Pokemon on the opposite side of this battle. But thankfully, the first attacks only hit Zapdos. And I'm thinking here, do I Aerial Ace the Gyarados again, or do I just go ahead and hit into the Tentacruel? I was also contemplating getting a swap in for Zapdos just because of how low the HP went. But we do get rid of the opposing Gyarados on the other side of the battle here. In hindsight, it might have been nice to try and catch the Gyarados as well. Or at least the Gyarados over the Tentacruel to add some IVs to the Magikarp that we have in the collection. We don't go ahead and do that. We end up knocking out the Tentacruel in the end, which was a little bit disappointing because it's the first time I think we've run into that Pokemon during our runs, so it would have been very nice to actually pick that Pokemon up and have Tentacruel as a starter, meaning that obviously we can go through the evolution lines if we ever wanted to take that Pokemon in a future run. But we take the Great Balls as our reward and we come up against a Malamar. Again, this is a Pokemon that I'm like, I'd really like to have this in the collection. This time we don't knock out and we do catch, but the IVs aren't amazing. But it does add even an Inky to our starters. So that is a positive. We've got another starter on the board and ready to rock and roll for us. And again, we're just gaining a lot of levels on our Pokemon here due to the XP share and also I think it's XP balance that we had as well. So everything's going pretty smoothly at the moment. We do take a Citrus Berry for our Zapdos, and then we come up against Swimmer Pete. In hindsight, I would have probably ended up healing up our Zapdos, even though we've only got 5,000 in the bank right now. I would have healed up the Zapdos a little bit just to make sure it wasn't going to get one shot by the Crawdon, but I think it may have been one shot even at full health there. But in hindsight, I would have probably taken some sort of potion there just to add a little bit of money, a little bit of HP to the Zapdos. We go into Gyarados here, and I thought, you know what, we'll go into Gyarados because it is a water type. If Crawdon comes out with water type moves, we should be able to tank those. We do get through the Crawdon, thankfully, with the Gyarados, meaning its level does go up once again for us. So everything is leveling up quite nicely here. Everything is above 80, meaning that it's going to be fairly handy in terms of having the Pokemon available to us during the course of the rest of the run. Gyarados does get taken very low here. In hindsight, I probably should have swapped out the Gyarados when I saw that, but I was like, I can't remember. I don't know if I'm going to be faster here or not, which we weren't. But we go into the Carbink, thinking about going for something like a Moonblast, which we go for. But again, Carbink wasn't really the play there, considering it is a rock type, meaning that it is going to be affected by the Sharpedo a lot more than the other Pokemon. Kadabra again gets one shot, unfortunately. So we've got two Pokemon, unfortunately, that are fire type Pokemon against this Sharpedo, and we thankfully don't end up being hit by a water type move the first time round, and our Colossal tanks the next water type move that comes in. But the downside right here is we have two Pokemon that are very, very, very weak to the biome that we're in, being the sea. We're going to be coming up against a lot of water type Pokemon, so we do max revive our Zapdos just to give us something that hopefully will be able to let us continue with this run. My thought process here was get to 110 and heal up all your Pokemon for free, but make sure you've got at least one of your main Pokemon you've been using the whole run in terms of Gyarados, Zapdos, or Kadabra, fully healed essentially. So swap into the Marowak here because it's healthier than the Colossal. I forgot to heal the Colossal after that last battle, but the reason I didn't do that mainly was because I didn't have much money left over. Marowak does unfortunately get double hit here, so we are down to Colossal and Zapdos. Colossal unfortunately is very low on health, so any sort of water-based move that that comes into Colossal here is just going to knock it out. So I'm like, okay, we have one Pokemon left in Zapdos. It's got to carry us through some battles here. So I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and get rid of the Floatzel. I was thinking, if memory serves correct, I was thinking, do I try and catch this Malamar just to add to the IVs of the Inky I've already got? But then I thought, no, we're only down to our Zapdos. That's not the best play. We need to try and keep this Zapdos alive and try not to take too much damage on it. I can't remember what we clicked there, but we clicked something fairly quickly. It was behind my webcam, so I couldn't see it, unfortunately. But right here, again, we are in another double battle. Zapdos makes short work of the Malamar, and we just have Seaking to worry about. So Citrus Berry does get procced there, meaning Zapdos does heal itself back up to 181 after being taken fairly low by the Seaking. But we do end up getting through that fairly nicely. And here we do see a revive, which I'm like, right, this could be really nice to take. But once again, I don't heal up any of my Pokemon, which every single time I look back at runs like this, I'm like, I should have just healed my Pokemon, because obviously Tentacruel right there took my Zapdos very low. But we do end up actually adding Tentacruel to our collection. It wasn't the greatest IVs for Tentacruel, but it kind of kept us in this run for a little bit longer, so that was the main reason I decided to go ahead and catch the Tentacruel. I didn't want to end up trying to outspeed the Tentacruel, losing it and losing my Zapdos, so we do heal up the Zapdos there and run into even an Empoleon. So once again, this will be a lovely Pokemon to add to the collection, but it does one-shot our Zapdos, meaning the only Pokemon we have left is Gyarados here. We go for a Hyper Beam and it does next to no damage, unfortunately, and our Gyarados does get taken down very low. So we go for a Hyper Beam, and then unfortunately that is our run over. So in hindsight, I probably would have healed up Pokemon a little bit more, but we just didn't do that in this run. And as you can see, I'm quite upset about it. I would have liked to have got back into the 110 to 120 range. It would have obviously healed up all of our Pokemon, but then we would have had to run into whatever the bad guys were for that particular run. So right here, I'm like, okay, I've got a little bit more time left on the clock for this video. Let's go ahead and let's make a brand new run. So right here, I'm going to go and select my brand new Pokemon in Meloetta. I do actually have a look at Druddigon and the IVs on it just to see if it's something I wanted to take as well. But we do take the Meloetta here because it is a brand new Pokemon. I want to test it out. I want to try it out in a run. So we do go ahead and swap out, I think it might be Single Confusion for Triple Arrows, which is obviously one of the egg moves that we do have for this particular Meloetta. In fact, no, we take out Quick Attack. Do we take out Quick Attack? Yes, we take out Quick Attack, we keep Sing, we keep Confusion, take Triple Arrows, and we have Round. So not the most amazing set of moves on this Meloetta, but at the same time, the more we get through the run, the more we'll be able to learn and change up what we have. So right here, I'm just trying to think, what do I want to go ahead and take with this Meloetta? I'm checking the IV on Mankey there because I would love to get into an Annihilate. But we do go ahead and take a Rhyhorn. The IVs on this Rhyhorn are very nice. It does have Ice Hammer, which could come in handy against certain Pokemon. So we do take that, and I'm pretty sure we add this Paris to our party because the IVs are very good on the Paris, and if we can keep that alive, then we will do so. But first and foremost, we come up against an Oddish here, hit Triple Arrows, which takes it down to about a quarter HP, and then hit Confusion for the knockout. In hindsight, if I had remembered Confusion was super effective, I would have probably used that from the start, but we don't end up doing so. Rattata comes out, so this is a straight up Triple Arrows to knock that out fairly easily. And we then want to have a look at Giga Impact, see if this is worth taking or not. Just reading through the description of this particular move, just to see if it's something we want to take. Meloetta was the only Pokemon that could learn it, and in hindsight, maybe we should have taken that. But I decided, you know what, we'll just go ahead and we will keep the moves we have on Meloetta. So we are getting through these particular areas fairly swiftly, which is always nice to see, especially at the lower floors. Rhyhorn, obviously here is the second Pokemon coming out for this double battle. We click Ice Hammer on the Rattata to see if we can knock it out with that particular move. I'm pretty sure it does end up one-shotting, so that was quite nice to see the Rhyhorn and Meloetta putting in a little bit of work, even though it is only floor number 4. But here, again, we go into another trainer. Bidoof comes out. I feel like 90% of the time, this first trainer either has Bug-type Pokemon or Normal-type Pokemon, or a combination of the two. So with regards to the moves that we have on Meloetta, I'm quite glad we had have even a fighting type moves for all the normal types that we do see early on in the runs, and we do end up getting through the trainer fairly swiftly, and we do take a Citrus Berry for Meloetta. So next up we see a Meowth who ends up doing, I can't remember what move it was called now. You guys would have seen it probably quicker than I did. But unfortunately we end up not being able to go ahead and attack on the first turn there with Meloetta, but we end up knocking it out anyway. We do take an Elixir there to go ahead and it's either Elixir, Ether, something like that, to add PP back to our fighting type move. And the move that obviously Meowth used was Fake Out, which is the same thing that the Purloin just ended up using on Meloetta as well. We could go ahead and just potion the Meloetta and then add another item for the Meloetta to hold. So right here we are again into Ivy on floor 8. 2 Pokemon to worry about. First one coming out is a Scorbunny. So I just had a quick look at the weaknesses for the fire type Pokemon, obviously outside of water, just to see if they're was any reason to go ahead and swap out of Meloetta, but we never needed to do so. And then we just triple arrows the Pidove into a confusion, allowing us to get through floor 8 and Ivy fairly swiftly without taking too much damage on our party of Pokemon. Right here, I think I take the Berry and put it on Meloetta, or do I take the Pokeballs? I don't take Memory Mushroom, it's too early in the run. I do take it, but I put it on Rhyhorn instead. And then we do come up against a Seedot, which we knock out with Confusion. So right now, I'm not really looking to capture any Pokemon. I'm just looking to try and get as high as possible in the run. And we do have some rare eggs. So the first one is a Gligar. The speed's quite nice on the Gligar. Everything else is a bit mediocre, unfortunately. The next egg that we do end up hatching here is a Dunsparce. Not the greatest IVs on this Dunsparce, unfortunately, in terms of adding anything to the one we've already got. And then, unfortunately, the next egg is again another Dunsparce, which adds a little bit of max HP to the one we have in our collection, but doesn't really do too much for that Pokemon. But right here, and we do take the Pokeballs, and we have Leap Up as our floor 10 boss, which Meloetta can get through fairly swiftly with triple arrows, so we are very happy with that. But I can't remember what floor I end up getting to in this run. That might actually be... I was about to say that might actually be it, but it wasn't. But I'm going to probably start rounding up this commentary here, guys, just because I can't remember exactly where I end up finishing this run. In fact, I do end up finishing it here. So with that being said, guys, I do appreciate you tuning into this video. I apologize about the no game sound and having to do the voiceover for this video, but it is what it is. At least we do have a video out for you guys. Alrighty, guys, I do apologize. I've recorded this whole video with no actual audio from myself through my microphone until now, of course. But my thought process is I'm going to do a voiceover for this particular episode, just so that way I don't have to throw it away, and it's another one where you don't see me die in a run and you don't see any eggs hatch and stuff. But yeah, I apologize for no actual microphone audio. So obviously when I'm talking on the screen, it's not going to be the same matched up to what I'm going to be saying. I will probably explain it during my voiceover as well. I do apologize. But yeah, that's going to do it for this particular run. I only noticed literally towards the end of the video, which is why you saw me throw my hands in the air. Yeah, not ideal, but I'll make it work. There'll still be a video with regards to this Pokerogue run. I probably will forget everything that I said in the run, but I will kind of just talk over the run, explain my thought processes and all that kind of stuff during the voiceover. But regardless of that, guys, I appreciate you tuning into this video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like, rating, and subscribe to the channel. Links in the description down below will be to my other channels here on YouTube, as well as my social media, so if you want to go and check those out, that'd be greatly appreciative. If you have any suggestions that you want to see on game-wise here on the channel, please let me know. I'm more than happy to take those into account and potentially add them into the pool of content in the future. But regardless, guys, I appreciate watching this video. Once again, I apologize about having to do a voiceover, and I'll see you in the next one.